Welcome to the CX Pod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Welcome to the CX Pod. Hello, Joanna. Hello, Adrian. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. Obviously, I didn't cause enough of a disturbance in the force the last time, so thank you for having me back. Maybe we can remedy that.
Yeah, amazing. I think we can create a bit of a punk feeling today.
Yeah, I'm feeling punk today as well. I mean, it's obviously people will know that we have had a little bit of a conversation going on before we started the recording, and we've been discussing everything from podcast strategies to, the weather, so upcoming holiday plans. But it's great to have you back, Adrian. The last time you were visiting us, we were still doing the podcast on a hobby basis, and it was mainly in Norwegian. So things have changed quite a lot. And even the concept has a little bit. But what we're going to try to do today, as we always do, is just, pick your brain. And what a brain to be picking, we have to say. And I'm excited, Joanna. How lucky are we to be able to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of background. I think I've known you, Adrian, almost since I embarked into the realm of customer experience. And the conversation before, you revealed that your own podcast has been going since 2011.
Yeah, since January 2011. So it is just over 14 years old. So I always say I was podcasting before it was cool. And now it's cool, and I'll probably still be podcasting when it's no longer cool.
I think we're going to make sure together that it stays cool. But I absolutely love your podcast, and I've certainly been listening to it since around about 2017. So I've been a valued listener for quite a few years.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's like I say that. So my podcast is. I use it as there's two things that I think that I really learned by the podcast is like, one, you get better at it over time, and two, I'm going to keep adding on to this. It's like two, it's hard work, and it takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment, but also that if you lean into it and you do it and you try and just enjoy it and find your own way of doing it and not try and be like anybody else, then I met so many fantastic people. I've learned so many things. I think it's the whole process has made me smarter. It's helped me build this kind of network of people, and so I could, via highlighting and showcasing their stories and some of the things that they're doing, whether it's stuff in their organizations, their companies themselves, or technology that they've produced, or all these different sort of things that are trying to drive better outcomes for customers and people and businesses and stuff. And yeah, it's great. It's like a license just to wander about and talk to people.
Yeah. And I love that. I think also that trying to fit into a certain frame or a certain sort of concept, that's going to make it less authentic, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about finding something you love. And basically that's what we've done as well. This started off as a little deviation to the Norwegian CX network because we established a network to help all those alone sitters around in Norwegian organizations working with CX, but not sort of having a network to spar with. And then we created the network, and we decided that we should actually do this as a podcast as well. And here we are now 3 years later, and we've got guests like you.
Guests like me, that makes it sound either I've got a level of infamy, and you know what? It's like, here's the thing that I'd like to say. I'm happy to go on and chunter about this stuff all day long. When I get invited to talk on people's kind of podcasts, I'm happy to talk about it. And it's not in a self-promotional way. I think about it because I spend my time thinking about it. I'm happy to share ideas and rummage around things. Because even though I get paid to do this sort of stuff, I find that really, I feel like I'm in this role where I'm in service to service, which sort of works better when you say service and service rather than in service to experience. Doesn't quite work, doesn't sort of roll off the tongue. So in service to service is kind of a nicer way to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to help. I'm happy to speak. I'm happy to share ideas. I'm happy to converse. I'm happy to explore. I'm happy to rummage around. I'm happy to do all those different things. And if it can help support other people's efforts, then I'm happy to do that. So too, I think there's space for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really happy that you're happy to
Yeah,
share
that's
with
the
us
mentality.
today. So why don't we jump in, Adrian, and if you can tell our listeners a little bit as well, who is Adrian Swinscoe?
Well, Adrian Swinscoe. Okay, let me do a quick kind of bio. So I am originally Scottish, now living back in Scotland after a number of years living overseas, and also kind of like living in the south coast of England in Brighton with my wife Hannah. We're now in Scotland. Have been for the last 3 years. Background to me: I am a trained economist, also a trained teacher. I did both of those sort of things in an earlier part of my work journey. I toyed with the idea of becoming a professional economist. That would require me to take a PhD. Decided I didn't have the patience to do that. So pivoted, in modern parlance, kind of into like an MBA, which would allow me to go from what was work in the education and sort of almost like not-for-profit advocacy sector into a commercial kind of route. And I ended up working for a couple of big organizations doing things like strategy and new proposition development and all that type of stuff. Then that was around the time of the dot-com era, sort of 99, 2000, early 2000s. Left the corporate world in 2004, so I've been working independently for, that'll be 21, it'll be just over 20, it'll be 20 and a half years. I think I'm probably officially unemployable. So I've been doing various little things. Through the first kind of few years of that, I did a bunch of different consultancy projects with different kind of groups. Actually got involved with some at-risk stuff. Nearly bought a steel company.
Wow.
That's a different story. That could have taken me down a completely different route. Towards the end of that, realized that I actually liked working independently, but I could see the way that the if you like, the tinterweb was going. And I thought, well, actually, if I want to do this independent advisory consulting thing, then I need to develop a digital footprint. And the best way to do that at the time was to actually start writing. So I started my own website, started my own blog, and started writing. I was writing about general business stuff, kind of to start with. And that got very boring very quickly. And then I thought to myself, I was reading some stuff about motivation and the motivations for intrinsic motivators for doing things, intrinsic and extrinsic sort of thing. And it made me think that, well, sometimes you maybe want to write about something that you aspire to achieve, as it were, or you want to help create, or you write about something that you just don't like and you want to change or you're pushing away from. And that made me think, I'm like, well, I don't really know what I want to kind of to create. So let me talk about things that I don't like. And I figured out I don't like bad service, right? And it's always, that doesn't make me kind of unique. There's a lot of us about. But having been involved in businesses and projects that always had customer employee value at their heart, it's always frustrated me that organizations often get in the way of their people doing a good job. And I was like, that's curious. And so I started writing about that, just exploring it and learning about it, and then wrote a book, added a podcast, got invited to write a Forbes column, wrote another book, kept going, wrote another couple of books, and here we are. And now I feel very privileged and very grateful after probably this is now, 17 years since I sort of started. So I started like 2008, 2009 time, and now we're in 2025. Jesus. That I love what I do. And I get paid to do stuff I like with people I like.
Yeah. That's awesome. We want to do that.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm thrilled that we just asked you that question, Adrian, because I feel that I have listened to you for so long, but I've never actually heard, I think, your whole
the steel company
story. Yeah. Really amazing.
It's a journey, right? It's not a career.
Yeah.
It's a journey. It's just let's kind of figure some stuff out. And done some brilliant things, really interesting things. Had some car crashes along the way, and that's kind of fine. It's taught me. Here's the thing: I've never thought of myself as a risk taker. Naturally, I don't see myself as a risk taker. But then I think about some of the stuff that I've done and going, that was quite risky, and that was quite risky. And so it's interesting, there's a difference between what you tell yourself and actually what you can do when you hold it up to the mirror. You're like, oh, somebody goes like, well, that was quite risky. And you're like going, was it?
Yeah, and I think what I really, really like about this is it's applicable to life, but also to the customer experience
Right.
essence, because it's about, like, if you bang your head against a wall, you shouldn't keep going, because either you're going to break the wall or your head, right? So you need to find something else to bang on, or you're not supposed to do that. And what I'm sensing without you saying it, specifically, is that you've just done stuff you like and stuff that's been meaningful to you, and that's also brought you sort of success and an ability to do more of what you love without it being about making the biggest money, or it's just been about being content. And I think if we can have that goal within customer experience and even human centricity as well, if we can just like make it more effortless, like not painful, at least, it doesn't have to be wow all the time, but it can be less painful, less effortless, or more effortless, then I like the whole vibe of this.
Can I say that on your point, I think you're absolutely right. I'm going to say the point around wow is, and here's the thing that we don't necessarily talk about very much, but I think it's absolutely true. A wow service or wow experience or wowing your customers is relative. If everything is bang average, then a little bit better than bang average is wow. Because anything that exceeds expectations.
Yeah, you need to leave room for the wow moments, because if it's all wow, you're just going to sort of lift the bar of what's going to be good enough. So then,
I mean, what I'm saying is that don't hamstring yourself by what you think wow is or isn't.
Yeah.
Is actually kind of realize kind of what it is. And I think that's the thing, is like sometimes people just go, oh, we have to wow our customers. You're like going, well, no, I think you sometimes have to be brilliant at the basics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you nail that consistently, then people are like,
you're probably wowing them.
I'm totally coming back. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I think this makes me think about the episode we made with Miriam Agnese here. She's Norwegian. She works at Alente, and she was talking about, just taking the outside in perspective and having a look at the journey from the customer's perspective. That can wow them, and not just delivering them a process that you've designed from the inside out. We could go on, and this is so relevant, but I do want to ask the next question, because I think it's also, since the last time you were here, we asked a similar question, but it's a lot of things has happened since then. So I just want to ask you, Adrian, like nowadays, we're now in 2025. The world is looking quite different, now than what it used to do just a few months ago, actually. But from a CX perspective, though, what's capturing your attention these days? Like, what is it that you feel is on everyone's lips, or, where is the focus when it comes to customer experience?
Well, it's sort of everywhere, because that's just kind of like how I wander about. So what I'll tell you about the latest thing that I've been thinking about, and it's not AI.
Yay.
Oh, sorry.
No, we love it when it's not AI. A lot of the times it's AI.
So the thing that's caught my attention recently, because at the time of recording, yesterday I published this new article out. Ostensibly, it's about CEO behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a couple of stories that have been told to me, where what CEOs do, and then I kind of wrapped it up about what's happening generally across the CEO kind of landscape. And there's a new McKinsey CEO survey that came out, and there's two stats in there that I'll share kind of with you. One is that about 2/3 of all CEOs say that they want to be customer-led, customer-focused, data-driven decision-making organizations, etc., and use customer feedback in that sort of whole process to try and inform 2/3 of CEOs. So I've said, yes, that's where we want to go. Yet only 15% of them say they actually do that. So there's this gap between rhetoric and actually activity. And then I told her that within that, I told her that I had some quotes from this the CEO of a company called Zuper about what they do, what he does, and he goes out and he intentionally puts speaking to customers on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as a strategically important part of his workload. as it were. And then I also told another story about how, interestingly enough, the Twilio had a change of CEO in January of last year. Their old CEO stepped aside, and the CFO, Josema Ship Chandler, kind of stepped up from CFO to CEO. Now, when you have CFOs that take on CEO roles, people go like, they're going to concentrate on the numbers and work costs and everything else. I heard that actually the first thing that he did was went, right, let's go and find out what's going on. And what he meant by that is he said, I'm going to go talk to a whole bunch of customers. And he kept talking with customers, and it's almost like set the whole exec team like on fire. And this mission is giving them almost permission to go off and do it. And it's almost cascaded down, and they've like set the tone, and everybody's going out and doing it now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. They just published their full year results for 2024. Their Q4 results went up by about 11%, and their full year 24 results went up by about 9 or 10% year on year. Now, is that new executive behavior responsible for all of this, or any of that stuff? Who knows? Anecdotally, by all accounts, what it's doing is transforming the business. By collapsing that gap between executive leadership and customers and what's happening and what they think, what they feel, what they experience, what they want. And it's collapsing all this distance, and it's making the company more connected and more dynamic and more focused and more customer-centric and all of that sort of stuff. And the results are the results.
Yeah, but then if you turn it around, and this, I've stolen this from a similar example, but so, okay, maybe you cannot explain this increase by what he's done, right? But at least he hasn't made it worse, Right. So whatever it is that's happened, what he did hasn't affected things in a really, really bad way. So that, you can argue that at least it's not hurting the company.
I have a thing that it's almost a bit like, it's like an assessment of leadership behavior in that sort of frame. Because I get the idea that we should use our data. We shouldn't use data to drive, our analysis and uncover insights and all these things. But there's too many people that kind of stop at a first level, because I think data informs us, right? And that's fine. But I think there's a level bit below that, or beyond that, which goes, and also stories and or narratives move us. So when you move away from the purely quantitative and add more of the qualitative, to which either adds depth and context and color to some of this data, then it sort of brings it to life. Those sort of narratives can move us, and that's like level 2, right?
Yeah.
But then there's another level, the level 3. And that's when leaders go off and seek this data out themselves. They seek the experience of gathering that data and seeing it and feeling it and again of becoming viscerally connected to it. And when they do that, I think then experiences compel us. Whether it's you go and listen to a customer call, or you take a customer call, or you do a ride along, or you visit somebody's stores, or whatever it is you do, but you do like what these CEOs I was just talking about kind of go and do. And I think that's where you end up getting the connection, which drives all these different sort of behaviors, which drives this other. And here's the interesting thing: when you do that, people think, it's all about the data and the insights we're going to gather. It is. That's one side of it. The flip side is, what do your customers think when you show up and you ask them for their opinion?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're like,
absolutely.
I'm important. You want to hear what I've got to say, and you're actually going to listen. And no, you're not the CEO. Yes, I am the CEO. Oh, that's brilliant. Fine. I'm happy to tell you what I think. And by the way, if you do something with that and you keep showing up, then I'm on your team.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you, Adrian. And there's something really interesting as well that I'd like to unpack a little bit about what is it that makes a CEO go out and do that is, Because I can give a bit of a background. I was just writing today in Women in CX platform. I was asked to, what was it? Yeah, they want to make a promotion of the women within their network, and I was asked to fill in a form. And one of the questions was, what is the one thing that you would change within customer experience? And I think the one thing that I would like to change is the fact that the top executives or the CEOs actually really understand what customer experience means. And to do so, I think perhaps this should be, you've taken an MBA, Adrian, this should be more about, we should be introducing this more into their education at degree and master's levels. And because I don't believe at this moment in time we have as much academic literature. It's part of the curriculum to understand both the strategical part and then the operational part, what that actually means. So does it mean we need to educate CEOs? But then we've probably got this other handful, like the manager that you were referring to, the CEO you were referring to, that just is that way. They have that mindset.
Well, can I interject there? I actually think it's a choice. It's not about education, it's a choice. And you choose to care about that. And you choose to go seek it out. And you do what you need to do in order to do that. Now, what that means is you end up having to choose, but also to start saying no. Because you have to say no to things to be able to create the space to go out and do these other things. Too often do I hear stories about people going, like modern, executives that are going, I'm on back-to-back calls or meetings today. You're like going, okay, so when are you actually going to do any work? And I say this quite flippantly, and I don't mean it kind of like seriously, but it's there to challenge and make people to think. Because I say to people, is that going, pretty sure there's no job descriptions in the world that include an objective that says one of your top priorities is to attend as many meetings as is humanly possible. And if you do that and you prove that, then you're going to get this big fat bonus. You're like, oh no. You've got to be strategic about the use of your time, because the time is the only thing that we can't get more of. And therefore it requires us to make choices. And I remember challenging a CMO of a tech company once to say, look, I think you need to do that. You need to create the space to do that strategic thinking, which might be, and also to go off and spend time with the customers, because you have to decide it's important. And I would say that the way to do that is you need to be saying no to 10 or 20% of all the meeting requests that you have, but you get in a week, because that's going to clear up either a morning or an afternoon or a day worth of space where you can do the more strategic sort of stuff. And if you don't do that, then you're running to somebody else's timetable and you're not controlling your own focus and attention. And so it ultimately, I think it starts with the individual about making that choice and clearing the space to do that work.
Yeah, but and I totally agree. But then if they don't see the value of doing that in the first place, they're not going to be convinced.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they need to learn. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, but I think and this is one of the big mysteries of life to me. How can you be a business owner, or how can you be a CEO in a large, small, medium, whatever company that is that you're leading, and be so, so arrogant regarding your customers? Like, it's so many companies have, at least historically, taken their customers for granted. But then again, we have great examples of, the good old days where customer experience actually was a natural part of any, family industry or whatever. So, but it's just how it's become. What is it that's ruining? That's a question I want to answer, actually, or I want you to answer, Adrian. What is it that's ruining the ability of companies to think customer-centric? Because it seems everyone we talk to want to be customer-centric. Everybody understands the concept of, if you treat your customers well, they're going to return to you, they're going to buy more. Everybody understands the concept of it. So how come we are so easily sort of misled to do the opposite? Is it capitalism? Like, what is it?
No, I think it's because individually, personally, and emotionally hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
it's like doing the right thing when nobody's watching, right?
Well, it's like a this falls doing this type of stuff. I think sometimes you could quite easily make an argument that it falls into the category of having a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Because what it requires is it requires you to go out and maybe seek out these experiences, seek out these people, go like, "Hi, my name's," and they go, "Yeah, get lost."
Yeah.
And so you face rejection, or you maybe get vilified, or all these different sort of things, and you kind of avoid that stuff. And I think that's the thing, is that I'm not saying it's easy, but we talk about wanting our people who are helping our customers to develop emotional resilience. Well, as leaders, I think they need to develop the emotional resilience sort of too. They might do it in some domains, but they need to do it in this domain. Realize it's just it's another activity that you will be rubbish at it to start. And maybe that's another thing that's part of it, is like when you're getting to these leadership positions, there's like, they tend to have this narrative of like going, I can't be rubbish at something anymore. I can't make mistakes. You're like, well, that's rubbish. Because how do you learn?
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it's like going, actually get over yourself and just go and talk to people. They're just people. And if you show up and you say, hey, I'm interested in what you have to say, then as long as you do it with humility and respect, then I think you'll learn.
So you need that sort of
amount.
Advocate to push you there. And I'm going to draw a parallel to working out, because we all know what we have to do to, get stronger, lose weight, or whatever it is our goal is. We know everything about that, but somehow it's still so hard to do it. So you need that sort of advocate to push you to go to the gym, or to, go buy that healthy salad or whatever. You need the constant reminder that this is important. This is what's going to be best for you, right? But it is hard. I agree. I think it's a great answer to the question, because it's why do we not do it when it's so obvious? Well, because the obvious is, even the obvious is hard sometimes.
Yeah. And I think you're right. So it's like some people will be, so I think that there's going to be obviously a split. There'll be a whole bunch of people that just don't do it. Well, there's a bunch of people that just don't care. There's a whole bunch of people that will go, I care, but not enough to do something about it. Then there's a whole bunch of people that will go, duh, of course. Why did I think of that before? And then they're just going to go off and do the DIY thing, and they will just kind of like figure it out.
I feel like you're in that category.
Completely. It's like, oh, that's good. Well, let's do that. And then there's the last category, which is, I think I probably need some help. And that might be somebody that's going to help organize it for me. Somebody that's going to walk me through it, hold my hand, to kind of support me, help me kind of figure out, talk it through so I get ready for it, because they have to deal with all their own anxieties and insecurities.
So what we have to do here is design a good experience for people who want to become better at designing good experiences for people who want to, you can go on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, all of that sort of stuff, all this stuff is, I mean, even though, customer experience as a space is not particularly old. So it's still, I mean, the landscape is evolving so fast, particularly with technology, that all this stuff is still quite new. People are starting to figure it out. And what's actually interesting is that technology, data and analytics, and all these things is almost getting to the point where it's becoming a panacea. We're like, oh, we can just look into our data. You're like going, yeah, but you forget that people are still the ones that buy stuff. And people are still invariably the human beings that build stuff and serve people. And the human perspective is still, and will remain a hugely important part of it. We ignore it at our peril.
Yeah, I think that leads us quite nicely to the next question, actually, which was, what do you believe the next major evolution will look like in customer experience?
Well, let's get it straight out of the way. Well, generative AI is going to have a massive impact. Agentic AI is going to change things as well. The problem is, I think the technology industry is accelerating away towards this mythical kind of like horizon, and most of the business community is going, "Oh, that looks nice. Hello, wait for us." And I think I worry that there's this gap emerging between the people that can and then the people that want to, and that could have ramifications around competitive advantage and all these different things. So I think people need to pull their socks up and get it together and get going on some of this sort of stuff. But I also know that technology is that we've only just scratched the surface on AI sort of techniques.
Mm.
And I think that I remember speaking to some like proper research scientists, experts in this sort of space last year at an event, and they were like estimating. So we've said we've only touched about 3 to 4% of all of the techniques that are possibly available to us or will become available to us. So it's like, watch this space.
Oh my.
But
Which
do you
is going to
think,
be mind blowing.
Yeah.
I do think there will be. I think there's a space for this carefully curated kind of human touch in all of this.
Mm.
And I think that I think about this in a if you think about a 2x2 matrix, and if you think about like a horizontal line which goes from low tech to high tech, and then a vertical line that goes from low touch to high touch.
Mm.
Interestingly, if you try and plot yourself on where you are on that graph, and then think about where your competitors are and where you want to go and why, I think it can give you a pretty interesting frame. And think about other examples that sit in that sort of those different sort of spaces and what makes them different and how they're combining the human touch with technology or not.
That sounds like a good exercise, absolutely.
Because then you'll notice that there's space for things. Like, there's space for handmade shoes, like old school craft type stuff. But then also there's space to add technology around that. I remember encountering a fascinating kind of tiny little business, but a brilliant little business based out of Chicago called Idris. And what they've done, this young guy called Javed has created this kind of technology platform, which is basically design your own shoes. Literally design your own shoes. You can do whatever, like fabrics, different types of leather, different colors, different soles, different styles, all these different things. You can just do, it's like a make your own shoes. And then he has a network of workshops across places like Spain and Italy and things that they take all these detailed schema for these design shoes and send it over there, and they have them made and they send them to you. So that's a combination of like proper old school with the technology. And I think that's a really, really interesting example. And it's not just about big businesses, but also smaller businesses.
Yeah.
And how you can create this. And now I'm lucky enough, my wife's got a pair of shoes from them, and and they're beautiful. I don't wear them enough. I don't have
What was the
occasion
name
to.
again?
Idris. So IDRESE.com.
Okay.
Now they mostly do shoes for men. If by all means kind of like, if any of your listeners kind of like go onto there and check it out, by all means send them a message and go, why aren't you doing shoes for women? Because I know you can, because you've done them in the past. We need to make that live. Then hassle them and berate them, because the stuff that they can do is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
And the stuff they can get made is quite remarkable.
Yeah, I just looked them up on my phone real quickly, and it's just we'll see if they start making women's shoes, then we might leave a link to their website in the show notes.
There you go. You can lobby them hard.
Yeah, we're gonna actually have to move on, and this is gonna be the last question for today as well. I feel time always flies with you, Adrian, and I just love when you start talking and then you stop for a little while, and I'm just like waiting to hear what's gonna come next now. And I hope the listeners feel that effect, because it's like, oh, listen carefully, here it comes. So I'm really, really excited about this last question, because I do believe that you might do this here as well. And I'm actually asking you to brag, and this is our podcast. We make the rules, and we are allowed to brag about ourselves in this podcast. So just to have said that before the question goes out to you, but I really want to know, like, from your own personal perspective, and either it's a CX thing or even an employee experience or even just a human experience sort of story. But what is it that through your, I'm going to say journey and not career, is it that's made you the most proud when working with these things?
Excuse me. That's a really tough question. I mean, I don't think there's any one standout moment. I mean, I think there's been lots of little things, little things, little moments, like moments with clients, moments at workshops, moments with people I've met, moments where I've been able to help somebody in whatever occasion, moments where someone has told me how something I wrote or something I did impacted them. Like, for example, let me tell you this short story. There's a lady called Karen who works.
The Karen?
Pardon?
No, it's not the Karen. It's not that one, is it?
No, it's with a Y.
Yeah.
And she works at Citibank or Citigroup. And I recently did a piece of work for them because she invited me to do that, and that was brilliant. But I met Karen probably it'd be about 8 or 9 years ago. And what she did is I wrote something on my kind of Forbes column, and she wrote me a note and said, I've spotted a couple of kind of typos or grammatical kind of errors kind of on your article, blah, blah, blah. Would you be okay for me to share what I spotted with you? Learn subsequently that she was like, she fully expected me to go like, what? How dare you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like going, yeah, bring it on. So she sent me kind of those things, and that was brilliant. And I kind of made the changes. What she didn't expect is that I wrote an article about that whole thing. And it's about those little things and about learning and about being open sort of to stuff. And what's actually happened since then is that Karen was in this role. And after that whole experience, because she didn't expect anything from me, and I said this thing, I said, look, I thank you so much. And you can go off and she talked to me about what she was doing. I said, look, you should go off and do whatever you can feel that you need to do and what you want to do. Just follow your heart. She said, thank you enough. She contacted me last year. She said, I don't know if you remember me. And she told me to retold the story. And I was like, oh my God. On the back of our conversation, she quit her job, enrolled in university, took a bunch of degrees, eventually took a PhD in like organizational psychology, blah, 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 with a particular focus on employee experience. And then she became the first ever employee experience hire on Wall Street.
Wow, what a story.
And then she reached out to me and said, like, given what you kind of like, I don't know, all the stuff that you've kind of done for me, and you've been a big part of my story, I'd love for you to come and talk to our folks at Citigroup.
Yeah.
And that makes me kind of well up a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Beautiful
But
stuff.
it's the moments, those small little, it's exactly what how you started this conversation, the small little moments that sow a seed and make a difference.
Yeah. It's not about the accolades or certificates or anything else. It's about
being human.
Sometimes it's not about intentional impact. It's about unintentional impact. So there's an economic term for you. The positive externalities that we create in the world. And I think that's the best thing is just like you don't do it because you expect something. You just do it and then something happens. And you're like, oh, that was cool. It's amazing.
Yeah. I like that.
So that would be my story of a moment that I'm proud of it. I'm not sure I'm proud of it. I feel good about it. I'm not proud of it because it wasn't intentional. Right? But it's a beautiful moment.
I'm proud of Karen. Like, this makes me proud of her for using the impact, right?
She's awesome.
Yeah. But
Big
that was,
shout out to
you
Karen.
were a little, like, back to the analogy of working out and the CX, you gave her that little push, probably, and then she went ahead and changed her entire life around that. And I think it's, I have to say, I'm proud to be able to share that story on our podcast. And hopefully we'll have, if we have just a little percentage of the effect on our listeners or on some of our listeners that you had there with Karen, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but thank you for asking the question because it made me think about that story when I was preparing for our call today. I was looking and I was thinking, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good story. I'll tell that one. Not in a self-congratulatory sort of way, but it's just a good story about paying attention.
Yeah, and by doing something that you just are and you just do and you just love, right? I think that's the thing, that if you do stuff that makes you happy, then you're gonna affect people to do things that make them happy, by coincidence, but also that's just the general butterfly effect of it, I think. I think we're going to have to leave that as the last famous words today. It's great. Do you agree, Joanna, or do you want to add a little tale to that?
Yeah, awesome to see and speak with you again, Adrian. Thank you for sharing your moments, your stories with us. Yeah, thank you. And I know you're off on holiday. We know you're off on holiday now, so our listeners don't know that. So please do enjoy your holiday.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for asking me to be part of your conversation on the CX Pod. Thank you for asking me to come on again. Keep it up. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, this was Adrian Swinscoe. Go ahead and check him out in the show notes. We're going to leave a link to your LinkedIn profile there. And this shoe company, maybe. We'll see what they answer when we ask them to make women's shoes. You have also been listening to me, myself. I am Merete. Joanna's here with me as well. And this is the CX Pod. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the CX Pod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.